Catherine, everyone's staying home due to the ice storm. Christmas dinner is canceled. Stay safe. My mom's text message glowed on my phone screen. I stared at it, a familiar wave of disappointment washing over me, but coupled with understanding. Nashville winters could be treacherous. An ice storm certainly sounded plausible. What I didn't know, couldn't possibly fathom in that quiet moment on Christmas morning, was that this simple, seemingly innocent text message was the loose thread that would unravel decades of carefully woven family deception and irrevocably change the course of my life. My name is Catherine, I'm 32 years old, and I work as an accountant. Until last Christmas, I'd simply accepted my role in the family dynamic. I was the different one, the quiet, career-focused older sister who never quite meshed with their boisterous social gatherings and effortless charm. My younger sister, Anna, she was the star, the golden child, perpetually bathed in the warm glow of our parents' unwavering adoration. Little did I know how much effort went into maintaining that glow at my expense. If you've ever felt like the odd one out in your own family, subscribe to Life Stories. You might see a bit of yourself in Catherine's story. Accepting the cancellation, I resigned myself to a quiet Christmas day alone in my Nashville apartment. I made decadent hot chocolate, queued up a marathon of cheesy holiday movies, and actively tried to cultivate a sense of cozy contentment, rather than wallow in the familiar pang of loneliness that often accompanied family holidays. Around 3 p.m., seeking distraction, I mindlessly scrolled through Instagram. And then my heart stopped. Cold. There it was. A vibrant, freshly posted photo carousel from my cousin Nina. The caption read, "Perfect family Christmas at Anna's. So blessed to have everyone together. #family traditions. #Christmas dinner. #blessed." The main photo showcased my entire immediate and extended family. Mom, Dad, Anna, beaming at the head of the table, aunts, uncles, cousins, even my elderly grandmother, who rarely traveled, gathered around Anna's elegantly decorated dining room table. They were all there, smiling broadly, decked out in festive sweaters, raising glasses, clearly mid-celebration, a celebration I was explicitly told wasn't happening, a celebration they had deliberately, meticulously excluded me from. Through the windows visible in the background of their cheerful photos, I could see clear, bright, sunny skies. There was no ice storm, there never had been. My hands started shaking uncontrollably as I swiped through Nina's other photos. There was Dad, proudly carving a massive turkey. There was Mom, arranging her signature, intricately decorated Christmas cookies on a platter. There were my little nieces and nephews, excitedly tearing open presents under Anna's perfectly adorned tree. The ice storm excuse wasn't just a misunderstanding. It was a complete fabrication, a convenient, cruel lie designed to keep me away, to ensure their perfect family gathering remained untainted by my apparently unwelcome presence. A wave of nausea washed over me as the full weight of the truth crashed down. All those other times, the last-minute canceled plans, the intimate gatherings I wasn't invited to because they were spur of the moment, the family jokes I never quite understood. How many of those events had actually happened without me? How long had this coordinated exclusion been going on behind my back, all while they maintained a facade of familial affection? How deep did this deception run? The next morning, right on schedule, as if nothing were amiss, my phone rang. Caller ID, Mom. I let it ring several times before taking a deep, steadying breath and answering, determined to keep my voice even. "Hi, honey," her voice chirped, sickeningly cheerful. "Just calling to see how you are. Hope you had a nice, quiet Christmas yesterday. We missed you." We missed you. The casual cruelty, the blatant hypocrisy, made my hands clench into fists. This was it. The moment the facade shattered. Though I didn't fully grasp the implications then, everything was about to change. Growing up, I'd always been the good daughter, the responsible one. Straight A's, helping Mom with endless chores, managing household tasks while she focused on social events. I'd even given up my dream of attending art school, opting for the practical accounting degree my parents insisted upon, wanting desperately to make them proud. Meanwhile, Anna, my vivacious younger sister, floated through life on a cloud of charm and parental indulgence. When she dropped out of college to become a yoga instructor, my parents lauded her bravery for following her passion. When I worked grueling overtime for months to help them pay off their second mortgage after Dad's business struggled, they barely offered a word of thanks. One incident 3 years ago should have been a klaxon warning. Dad needed major surgery. I took 3 weeks of unpaid leave from my demanding accounting job to care for him, cooking, cleaning, driving him to endless appointments, managing his complex medication schedule. Anna visited exactly once, stayed for maybe an hour, snapped a few dramatic selfies with Dad looking frail in his hospital bed for her social media, sending healing vibes, #FamilyStrong, and then rushed off, claiming she had an urgent yoga retreat she couldn't possibly miss. Yet, in my parents' subsequent retelling to relatives, Anna was the wonderfully supportive daughter who dropped everything while I was merely doing my duty. My extended family played their part too. At every holiday gathering, my aunts would gush over Anna's free spirit and authenticity, while pointedly asking me when I was going to loosen up, find a husband, and learn to enjoy life a little. My promotions and accomplishments at work were dismissed as boring numbers stuff, while Anna's latest backpacking trip or juice cleanse was hailed as fascinating dinner table conversation. I endured it all, swallowing the hurt, telling myself it didn't matter, that family dynamics were complicated, that they loved me in their own way. Even last month, at Thanksgiving, hosted at my parents' house, I spent hours peeling potatoes, washing dishes, and setting the table, only to overhear Mom telling my aunt that Anna had done practically everything, while I just sat around on my phone. I kept quiet, just like always. When Anna announced she was hosting Christmas this year at her trendy new condo, I immediately offered to help plan the menu, cook, clean, anything needed. She'd waved me off vaguely. "Oh, no need, Kat. I've got it handled. I just want everything to be perfect." I should have recognized the coded language then. I should have seen the pattern. But I was still clinging desperately to the fiction of our happy, normal family. The truth, laid bare by those cheerful, lying Instagram photos, was that I had spent my entire life desperately trying to earn their approval, making endless excuses for their dismissive behavior, willfully ignoring the countless small cuts, the spontaneous gatherings I was never included in, but saw evidence of later. I'd convinced myself that if I just tried harder, achieved more, gave more, was more like Anna, maybe then they would finally see me, finally value me, finally deem me worthy of inclusion in their perfect family picture. "Hi, honey. Hope you had a nice, quiet Christmas. We missed you." Mom's fake cheer chirped again over the line. I gripped the phone, my knuckles white, staring at the damning Instagram photos still displayed mockingly on my laptop screen. "Really, Mom?" I managed, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. Because, according to Nina's Instagram post, everyone had a wonderful, very not quiet time over at Anna's house yesterday. Everyone. I paused, letting the word hang. Except me. The silence on the other end of the line stretched, thick with unspoken panic. I could practically visualize my mother's expression, that familiar deer-in-the-headlights look she got when caught in a lie, quickly followed by the mental gymnastics required to formulate a plausible excuse. "Oh," she stammered finally, her voice losing its forced cheerfulness. "Well, yes," Anna decided. "It was very last minute, really. And well, you know how you can be at big gatherings, Catherine. Always so quiet, sort of off by yourself. It can make people uncomfortable. We just thought—" "Thought what, Mom?" I pressed, cutting through her rambling attempt at justification. My voice was dangerously calm. "Thought it would be better to construct an elaborate lie about a non-existent ice storm. Thought it was kinder to make me spend Christmas entirely alone, believing everyone else was doing the same, rather than simply telling me I wasn't wanted." "Don't be so dramatic, Catherine," she sighed, shifting instantly from stammering excuse-maker to wounded matriarch. "We were just trying to avoid any potential awkwardness. You know how Anna wanted everything to be perfect this year." Perfect. The word hung there, poisonous and revealing. My presence, apparently, was the imperfection they needed to eliminate. And suddenly, it wasn't just about this Christmas. All the past incidents clicked into horrifying focus. The Times plans had mysteriously fallen through at the last second. The family photos I'd see later on social media featuring everyone but me, the vague excuses. This wasn't an isolated incident driven by Anna's desire for perfection. This was a deeply ingrained pattern. "How many times, Mom?" I asked, my voice dropping to barely a whisper, the realization chilling me to the bone. "How many other holidays, birthdays, gatherings have you lied to me about?" Another telling silence, longer this time. Then defensively, "Catherine, you're being overly sensitive. This is exactly why—" "Why what?" I cut her off sharply, the dam of polite restraint finally breaking. "Why you exclude me? Why you pretend I don't exist, unless you need help with your taxes or someone to dog sit? Why Anna gets to be the perfect, adored daughter while I'm consistently treated like an inconvenient burden?" "That's not fair," she protested, indignation replacing her defensiveness. "We love you both equally. It's just, Anna puts in the effort, Catherine. She makes time for family. She connects with people. You're always so busy, so wrapped up in your work." I let out a short, bitter laugh that startled even myself. "Busy with work? You mean busy helping you pay off your mortgage for 2 years? Busy taking 3 weeks off work to care for Dad after his surgery while Anna flitted in for an hour? That kind of busy?" "Listen here." My mother's voice suddenly turned cold, stern, the voice she used when she felt her authority challenged. "If you're going to adopt this hostile attitude, this victim mentality, then maybe it is better if we give each other some space for a while. Call me back when you're ready to be reasonable." The line went dead. I sat there, staring blankly at my silent phone, the finality of her words echoing in the room. 32 years. 32 years of trying, of accommodating, of making excuses, of shrinking myself to fit their narrative. And with one click, she severed the connection, confirming everything. Every dismissal, every comparison, every time I felt less than, it hadn't been in my head. It had been intentional, calculated. I wasn't the problem. I never had been. And in that gut-wrenching moment of clarity, something inside me didn't just snap. It forged into steel. I was done. Done being the family doormat. Done making excuses. Done trying to earn love from people incapable of giving it freely. I opened my laptop, not to work, but to compose an email. My fingers flew across the keyboard, fueled by years of suppressed hurt and righteous anger finally unleashed. I addressed it to my entire family, parents, sister, aunts, uncles, cousins, everyone tagged or visible in Nina's incriminating photos. Subject: Christmas dinner, the truth. "I've seen the photos from Christmas dinner," I began, my tone cold and direct. "The dinner I was explicitly told was canceled for everyone due to a non-existent ice storm. I want every single one of you who was there, smiling for the camera, to know exactly what you participated in. You didn't just exclude me from a family gathering. You actively coordinated and participated in an elaborate, cruel lie designed specifically to ensure I spent Christmas Day completely alone, believing you were all doing the same." I attached screenshots, my mother's text messages urging me to stay safe from the fictional storm, juxtaposed starkly against Nina's sunny photos of their festive gathering. I hit send before doubt or fear could intervene. The responses started flooding my inbox almost immediately, a predictable cascade of deflection and denial. My Aunt Marie claimed they simply forgot to update me when the storm cleared up and the plans changed last minute. Uncle Robert blustered about me overreacting and making mountains out of molehills. My cousin Nina, whose post had inadvertently blown their cover, hastily deleted all her Christmas photos from Instagram and sent me a curt private message accusing me of causing unnecessary drama. Then came Anna's response, a long, rambling, condescending email detailing all the ways I supposedly ruined family events with my quietness and negativity, justifying her desire for one perfect holiday without my dampening presence. She even had the breathtaking audacity to suggest that excluding me was actually for my own good, because I clearly don't enjoy large family gatherings anyway. But it was my parents' reaction that truly cemented my resolve. Instead of a shred of remorse or apology, they doubled down, launching an immediate offensive. My mother began calling mutual family friends and distant relatives, spinning a wild, tearful story about how I was emotionally unstable, lashing out unfairly, and possibly having some sort of breakdown. My father sent me a short, stern email lecturing me about the importance of respecting family privacy and condemning my disgraceful decision to air our dirty laundry publicly, within the family email chain, ironically. "You've really done it now," Anna texted me smugly later that day. "Mom's crying constantly, everyone's upset, and it's all because you couldn't just accept that maybe, just maybe, you're the problem. This is exactly why we didn't want you at Christmas in the first place." It felt surreal, like stepping through the looking glass into a world where lies were truth and victims were villains. They orchestrate a cruel deception, get caught red-handed, and somehow I end up being the bad guy for exposing it. The more I calmly stated the facts, the more frantically they twisted the narrative, painting me as irrational, vindictive, disturbed. When I refused to back down, refused to apologize for their behavior, they escalated their tactics. My mother actually showed up at my accounting firm unannounced, demanding to speak to my boss, causing a scene in the lobby until security escorted her out. Anna took to posting vague, passive-aggressive memes and updates on social media about cutting out at toxic people, choosing peace over drama, and the importance of protecting your energy, all clearly aimed at me. My father left a chilling voicemail threatening to cut me out of his will entirely if I didn't stop this nonsense and get back in line. Their increasingly desperate, aggressive actions didn't intimidate me. They clarified everything. This wasn't a flawed but loving family trying to protect itself from a difficult member. This was a fundamentally toxic system, built on lies and favoritism, desperately trying to regain control over the scapegoat who had finally refused to play her assigned role. And I knew then, with absolute certainty, that simply exposing their Christmas lie wasn't enough. I needed to sever the ties completely. I needed to break free. Little did they suspect, as they plotted their campaign of manipulation and character assassination, that I was already beginning to form a plan of my own. A plan that would utilize my own quiet strengths, my attention to detail, my understanding of numbers and records, to show them precisely what happens when you push away the one person who had unknowingly held the keys to their carefully constructed facade all along. About a week after the email explosion, amidst the flurry of angry calls and passive-aggressive social media posts, an unexpected message popped up on my LinkedIn profile. It was from Rachel Thompson, a close friend of my mother's from years ago, a retired accountant who had managed my parents' finances for decades before stepping back due to health reasons. I hadn't spoken to her in ages. "Catherine," the message read, "I've been seeing some of the vague posts and hearing whispers about the situation with your family. There's something I think you need to know, something that's weighed on my conscience for years. Can we meet? Coffee? My treat?" Intrigued and slightly apprehensive, I agreed. We met the next afternoon at a quiet, neutral cafe downtown. Rachel looked older, more frail than I remembered, and distinctly nervous. She clutched a worn manila envelope tightly in her lap. "Catherine," she began, her voice trembling slightly after exchanging brief pleasantries, "I hope you can forgive me for not speaking up sooner. I've carried the guilt of this for 15 years. She slid the manila envelope across the small table towards me. "Your father, he swore me to absolute secrecy back then, professional confidentiality, loyalty to him as a client. I made excuses. But after seeing how they're treating you now, trying to paint you as unstable, I can't stay quiet any longer. You deserve to know the truth." My hands shook slightly as I opened the unsealed envelope. Inside were photocopies of bank statements, investment summaries, and legal documents dating back over 15 years. As I began to read through them, focusing on account numbers and transaction details with my practiced accountant's eye. The blood drained from my face. According to these meticulously kept records, my paternal grandfather, whom I adored, had passed away when I was 17. In his will, alongside provisions for my parents and Anna, he had established a separate trust fund specifically for my education and future financial independence. It was a significant amount, close to $300,000, money I had never ever known existed. Your father was named the sole trustee, Rachel explained quietly, watching my reaction with pained eyes. The terms were clear. The funds were to be managed for your benefit and transferred to your control when you turned 25. 25. I thought back. That was the year I'd graduated, deep in student loan debt from putting myself through accounting school after giving up my art scholarship. That was the year I'd taken on extra freelance work to help my parents make their mortgage payments after one of Dad's business ventures failed. All while my inheritance sat waiting. Except it hadn't just sat there. The statements showed a clear systematic pattern. Instead of informing you or transferring the funds, Rachel continued, her voice thick with regret, your father, with your mother's full knowledge, began transferring funds from your trust into Anna's personal and business accounts. It started small, but it escalated over the years. He used it to fund her entire lifestyle, the down payment on her condo, her multiple failed wellness business ventures, her extensive travels, including that year teaching yoga in Bali they always raved about. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. All those years I'd struggled, worked multiple jobs, meticulously budgeted, felt guilty for not being able to contribute more to the family pot, while they were actively spending my inheritance on my sister. All those times they'd praised Anna's bravery and passion, implicitly comparing it to my boring but necessary career. They were literally funding her perceived success with my stolen money. There's more, Rachel said grimly, gesturing towards another set of documents in the envelope, property deeds and transfer records. Your grandfather also left 2 rental properties, investment properties, that were explicitly designated in the will to be split equally between you and Anna upon his death. Your parents sold both properties about 10 years ago. How? I whispered, feeling sick. They needed my signature. They used the durable power of attorney they had you sign when you turned 18, Rachel stated flatly. Remember? They told you it was just a standard form in case of emergency medical decisions while you were away at college? I remembered, signing it trustingly, without question, because why wouldn't I trust my own parents? That document, I now realized, hadn't just covered medical decisions. It had given them sweeping control over my financial interests as well. Interests I didn't even know I possessed. They had systematically, methodically robbed me. They had watched me take out student loans, work overtime, stress about finances, even accepted my financial help with their expenses, all while knowing they were sitting on and actively depleting a substantial inheritance that was rightfully mine. Even worse, the statements clearly showed regular electronic transfers from the trust account directly into Anna's accounts, often labeled vaguely as business investment or personal loan. Money stolen from me to fund the very lifestyle, the very free-spirited ventures they constantly praised her for, while subtly criticizing my responsible choices. It all made a horrible, sickening kind of sense now. Their desperate need to maintain the narrative of Anna as the successful, favored daughter, and me as the difficult, ungrateful one. Their escalating attempts to discredit me, to paint me as unreasonable or unstable. Their threats to cut me out of a will when they had already secretly looted my actual inheritance years ago. It wasn't just about control or favoritism, it was about covering up years of financial fraud. "Why are you telling me this now, Rachel?" I finally asked, my voice barely steady, looking up from the damning documents. "Why not sooner?" Rachel met my gaze, her eyes filled with shame but also determination. "Because I saw your mother's Facebook posts last week, Catherine, the ones implying you were having mental health issues, the ones trying to paint you as unstable and ungrateful to friends and family. They're trying to discredit you completely before you potentially stumble onto the truth yourself. They've been embezzling from you for over a decade. What they've done, it isn't just morally reprehensible, Catherine. It's outright illegal. It's fraud. It's theft. I carefully packed the documents back into the manila envelope, my mind racing, the pieces clicking into place with horrifying speed. My accounting brain kicked into high gear, overriding the emotional shock. "Thank you, Rachel," I said, my voice suddenly firm, clear. "Thank you for telling me. I know exactly what I need to do now." This was no longer just about a ruined Christmas or years of emotional neglect. This was about grand larceny, breach of trust, and systematic financial exploitation perpetrated by my own family. And I, Catherine Reynolds, the boring, detail-oriented accountant they had always underestimated, was uniquely qualified to make them finally face the consequences. Armed with Rachel's explosive documents and fueled by a cold, clear anger, I spent the next week doing what I do best, meticulously building a case. As an accountant, tracking the flow of money, identifying discrepancies, and compiling evidence was second nature. I cross-referenced the statements Rachel provided with dates of Anna's major life events, her condo purchase, her business launches, her extended overseas trips. The correlation was undeniable. I documented every unauthorized transfer, every instance where the power of attorney was likely misused for property sales I was never informed of, every email where my father discussed managing Anna's finances, using funds that clearly originated from my grandfather's trust. I then took my organized findings and Rachel's original documents to Sarah Chen, a highly recommended attorney specializing in complex estate fraud and financial exploitation cases. Sarah reviewed everything with a sharp, analytical eye. "This is incredibly thorough, Catherine," she said after several hours, "and deeply disturbing. Based on this documentation, it's a clear-cut case of breach of fiduciary duty, embezzlement, and fraudulent use of power of attorney. We can pursue civil litigation to recover the funds, absolutely. And frankly," she added, her expression grim, "given the scale and duration, you likely have grounds to file criminal charges as well, should you choose to pursue that route." Criminal charges against my own parents, my own sister. The thought was staggering, almost unthinkable just weeks ago. It would mean public exposure, irreparable damage to their carefully constructed reputations, potential jail time. They had destroyed our relationship, yes, but initiating criminal proceedings felt like crossing a final, terrifying line. Yet, what they had done was criminal, stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars from your own child, systematically, over 15 years? That wasn't just bad behavior, it was a felony. After much agonizing deliberation, talking it through with Sarah, I decided on a course of action. I would give them one last chance, one opportunity to make things right, however unlikely it seemed they would take it. I drafted a carefully worded email to my parents and Anna, keeping it brief and neutral. Subject: family meeting. I believe it is imperative we meet to discuss and resolve the outstanding issues between us. Please let me know when you are available to meet at my apartment this coming Saturday. They responded almost immediately, eagerly agreeing to the meeting. I could almost hear their collective sigh of relief through the screen. They likely thought my confrontational email about Christmas had been a momentary outburst, that I had cooled down, seen the error of my ways, and was now ready to apologize and be welcomed back into the fold, perhaps after a suitable period of groveling. They had no idea what was coming. Saturday morning arrived. I spent hours preparing, not food, but evidence. I made 3 identical copies of the entire dossier: Rachel's documents, my analysis, transaction records, property deeds, relevant sections of my grandfather's will. I placed each set into a separate, thick folder. On top of each pile, I included a concise letter drafted by Sarah Chen, outlining their options in stark legal terms. Option A: sign the enclosed legal confession acknowledging the embezzlement and fraudulent activities, and arrange for the immediate transfer of all remaining funds from the specified accounts, plus calculated interest based on market rates over 15 years, back into a new trust account set up under my name within 48 hours. Option B. Face immediate civil litigation and the filing of formal criminal charges with the district attorney's office, utilizing the enclosed evidence. They arrived at my apartment precisely on time, presenting a united front. Their expressions a mixture of wary apprehension and smug confidence. They clearly expected me to be remorseful, perhaps tearful, ready to beg forgiveness for causing trouble. My mother started in immediately as soon as they stepped inside, before even taking off her coat. "Catherine, dear, we're so glad you called this meeting, so glad you've come to your senses and realized—" I cut her off, gesturing towards my dining room table where the 3 folders sat ominously. "Before anyone says another word," I stated calmly, my voice steady, "I suggest you each take a folder and read the contents very carefully." The shift in atmosphere was instantaneous. The smugness evaporated, replaced by confusion, then dawning horror as they began flipping through the pages. The color drained completely from my father's face. He sank heavily into a chair, his hands visibly shaking as he scanned bank statements bearing his signature on the transfers he thought were long buried. Anna gasped, tears instantly springing to her eyes as she saw documentation linking her business investments directly to my trust fund. My mother attempted to maintain control, her face hardening. "This is ridiculous! What is this? Some kind of joke? You're trying to blackmail your own family." "Blackmail?" I laughed, a cold, humorless sound. "No, Mother. Blackmail involves threats based on secrets. This," I tapped one of the folders, "is evidence of felonies. I'm not threatening you. I'm giving you a choice. A final chance. Option A. Return my inheritance. Every last cent, plus interest. Sign a legally binding confession admitting what you did, and perhaps we can handle the restitution privately. Option B. I walk out of this room and straight to the district attorney's office with this evidence, and you face the full force of the criminal justice system. Rachel has already agreed to testify against you." "Rachel! Rachel had no right!" my father started, finding his voice, sputtering with indignation. "You had no right!" I interrupted fiercely, years of suppressed anger finally finding their target. "You stole from me for 15 years. You watched me struggle. You took my help, all while systematically looting the money my grandfather left specifically for me. You used my trust, my signature on that power of attorney, to sell property that was half mine. You funded Anna's entire adult life with my inheritance." Anna burst into incoherent sobs. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. They told me the money was from their savings. Gifts." "Don't lie, Anna," I replied, my voice like ice. "The transfers went directly into accounts under your name. You saw the amounts. You spent the money. You knew exactly what you were doing, or at the very least, you chose willful ignorance." My mother tried one last desperate tactic, appeal to emotion, to family unity. "Catherine, think about what this will do to the family. Our reputation. What will people say?" "You should have thought about that," I responded coldly, "before you decided to embezzle hundreds of thousands of dollars from your own daughter. You have 48 hours. Decide." They practically stumbled out of my apartment in a state of panic. Nay, my father half supporting my hysterical mother. Anna trailing behind, still sobbing. Within hours, predictably, the extended family group chat, which I hadn't yet left, exploded with frantic messages, accusations, and pleas for family unity, all directed at me naturally, painting me as the aggressor, the troublemaker tearing the family apart. Relatives who knew nothing of the situation blindly took my parents' side. I ignored it all, forwarding the relevant messages to Sarah Chen. "The ball's in their court now," I told Sarah calmly over the phone that evening. "But something tells me pride and panic are going to make them choose option B." I was ready. Whatever path they chose, whatever chaos ensued, I was finally free from their web of lies and manipulation. They had already given me the greatest, most unexpected gift: the absolute freedom that comes from having nothing left to lose in a relationship built on deception. The 48-hour deadline passed in a blur of tense silence from my immediate family, punctuated only by the frantic, ill-informed chatter in the extended family group chat. Just as I had predicted to Sarah Chen, my parents and Anna did not contact my lawyer, did not sign any confession, and certainly did not arrange any transfer of funds. Instead, fueled by panic and a lifetime of believing they were above consequences, they opted for option C, attempting to cover their tracks. Rachel called me late Monday night, distressed. My father had visited her, first pleading, then subtly threatening her to retract her statement, reminding her of old loyalties. Other distant relatives, likely prompted by my mother, left vague, guilt-inducing voicemails on Rachel's phone. Anna, meanwhile, was apparently busy shredding years of personal bank statements and closing accounts. What they failed to realize was that their clumsy attempts at destroying evidence were futile. I, the meticulous accountant, had already secured certified copies of everything crucial, and Rachel, horrified by their attempts at intimidation, was now more resolute than ever to testify. The morning after the deadline expired, Sarah Chen and I walked into the district attorney's office and formally filed criminal complaints for embezzlement, fraud, and elder financial abuse related to the misuse of the trust established by my grandfather. We presented the comprehensive evidence dossier. By that afternoon, the wheels of justice began to turn with surprising speed. Search warrants were issued. I received quiet, discreet calls, confirming events as they unfolded. My father, stony-faced, being escorted by plainclothes detectives from his downtown office building. My mother protesting loudly about a misunderstanding, being arrested during her weekly upscale charity committee meeting. Anna's trendy yoga studio, purchased with my stolen funds, being seized by authorities as a proceed of crime. The family group chat exploded again, but the tone shifted dramatically from unified accusation against me to stunned disbelief and frantic questioning as the news and the undeniable reality of the arrests spread. Relatives who had vehemently defended my parents just days before suddenly fell silent or offered tentative, awkward messages of concern. The local newspaper, catching wind of the high-profile arrests, ran a cautious initial story hinting at financial irregularities within a prominent Nashville family. The carefully constructed facade my parents had spent decades maintaining crumbled in a single, ignominious day. My phone buzzed. A simple text from Rachel. "You did the right thing, Catherine. Your grandfather would be proud." Reading her words, staring out my apartment window at the city skyline, I felt no surge of triumph, no vengeful satisfaction, only a profound, bone-deep sense of relief. The truth, however ugly, was finally out. The burden of their secrets, a weight I hadn't even fully realized I was carrying, was lifted. I was finally, unequivocally free. 1 year later, life looked vastly different. I sat in the living room of my new sun-filled apartment in Denver, watching snowflakes drift softly outside the window. The court case back in Nashville had concluded months prior. Facing overwhelming evidence, my father and mother had both accepted plea deals, avoiding lengthy jail time in exchange for significant financial restitution, much of which came from selling their large Nashville home, extended probation, and public acknowledgement of their wrongdoing. Anna, implicated but perhaps less directly culpable in the initial fraud, received probation and community service. Her yoga empire had evaporated, her condo sold to contribute to the restitution, and she was, last I heard, working a decidedly unglamorous job as a receptionist. The perfect family image was shattered beyond repair. Most of the Nashville relatives who had blindly enabled my parents' narrative for years now kept their distance, and surprisingly, I found I didn't miss their superficial connections at all. Instead, I had focused on building a new support system in Denver, genuine friends met through work and hobbies, colleagues who respected my skills and integrity, and even a few distant cousins who had reached out after the scandal broke, offering tentative apologies for their past assumptions and expressing admiration for my courage. Rachel came to visit me in Denver last week. Over coffee, reminiscing, she handed me a small, worn photo album she'd stumbled upon while cleaning out old storage boxes from her time managing my family's affairs. Inside were pictures I hadn't seen in decades, faded snapshots of my grandfather and a much younger me. Moments I'd almost forgotten in the long shadow cast by my parents' dysfunction. In one photo, he was patiently teaching me how to bait a fishing hook, both of us grinning at some long-forgotten joke. "He always said you were the strong one, Catherine," Rachel told me softly, pointing to the laughing girl in the photo. "He worried, you know. He saw how they favored Anna, even back then. But he believed you had the resilience, the inner strength to overcome it eventually." I touched the faded image gently, remembering his quiet kindness, his unwavering belief in me. He had tried to secure my future with that inheritance, and though his plan had been cruelly derailed for 15 years, his final gift, unearthed by Rachel's courage, had ultimately delivered something far more valuable than money. It had delivered the truth. And the truth, in turn, had given me the courage to finally stand up for myself, to dismantle the toxic structure that had confined me, and ultimately to claim the freedom to build a life entirely on my own terms. Sometimes the greatest act of love isn't about maintaining peace at any cost. It's about having the courage to expose the truth, even when it hurts. And sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even, it's simply about getting free. Catherine's story is a chilling reminder that sometimes the deepest betrayals come from those closest to us, hidden behind a facade of normalcy and familial love. The calculated cruelty of the Christmas lie was merely the tip of the iceberg, concealing years of systematic financial exploitation and emotional manipulation orchestrated by her own parents and enabled by her favored sister Anna. Being deliberately excluded was painful, but discovering her inheritance had been stolen to fund her sister's lifestyle while she struggled was devastating. Yet, Catherine's journey is ultimately one of profound strength and liberation. As an accountant, she possessed the unique skills to meticulously uncover and document the truth. As a daughter pushed too far, she found the courage to confront the unthinkable, utilizing the very evidence of their betrayal not for petty revenge, but to demand justice and accountability. This narrative teaches crucial lessons about recognizing and confronting toxic family dynamics, particularly scapegoating and narcissistic patterns. It highlights the importance of trusting your instincts, even when gaslit by those you love. Catherine's story underscores the power of documentation and seeking external validation, like Rachel's testimony, when challenging deeply entrenched family narratives. While the path to justice was painful, involving legal battles and the complete rupture of family ties, it ultimately led to Catherine's freedom. Freedom from manipulation, freedom from financial exploitation, and most importantly, freedom to define her own worth and build a life based on truth, integrity, and genuine connections. Sometimes the most difficult truths are the ones that set us free. Thank you for listening to Catherine's harrowing but ultimately empowering story on Life Stories. If you've ever had to challenge a family narrative or fight for your own truth, please share your thoughts respectfully in the comments. Remember to like this video and subscribe for more stories about overcoming complex family dynamics and finding personal freedom. Trust your truth. Until next time.